Hello, welcome back to Search with Sean, and this is another Real Talk with Sean. And we've got an amazing show for today, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Four amazing guests. As usual, I'll get through the admin stuff. I'll be quick because I want to get onto the topics, but generally has been thrown around for a few weeks now. I have got a survey live at the moment for those working in SEO. I just want to know your thoughts on the current state of search, what the future may hold, and so on. So I am going to give away 3 Amazon vouchers worth £20. Say thank you. That'll be randomly drawn. But your views and everything be so welcome. And I'll be putting that into a video, and a blog. And I've already got some great insights. So I'll put the link in the description, but it'll be awesome if you could fill it out if you work in SEO or you're interested in it or whatever. But yeah. And then also, I don't say this enough, but if you can subscribe to the channel, if you're interested in SEO and AI and everything going on in that space, it will help the channel grow. It's growing reasonably well, but obviously it all helps. So if you can subscribe, like, do whatever you want, comment, it all helps. So I'll stop going on now and I'll introduce my amazing guests today. And yeah, let's get going. So first of all, we have Jess Scholz, who's an independent growth marketing consultant and an SEO futurist. She has keynoted a list of well-known SEO conferences and writes the newsletter SEO Brief. We also have Mordy Oberstein. He's the founder of Unify brand development and a communications consultant for SEMrush. And we have Crean, who's the head of operations at Kazai, a multi-award winning digital marketing agency. And you'll probably have seen her on Search with Sean Live. She did a video there and I'll put a link in the description. And of course, we've got Andrew Holland, and he's the SEO director at the award-winning digital PR agency JBH. He was also on recently on Chat with Sean, so I'll also put the link in the description. But yeah, thanks all for being here. I really appreciate it and really looking forward to this one. Okay, well, let's get going with the topics. And as usual, I put out a topic. A lot of the topics are what's going on and what's being talked about in the industry right now. And I'll go through our great guests and we'll kind of open it up to see what people think. But so I'll start with you, Kelly. In terms of, SEO reports these days, what should they consist of? Because obviously a lot of talk that we should be bothering about traffic and we shouldn't be bothering about, vanity metrics. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, to be honest, most clients don't really care about what you do and they never have. They just care about the results. So like the clients love revenue and conversion. So that's actually always the top thing in your report. If you've got them more leads, you tell them this. If you've got made them £15,000, they should know this. So always showing the impact. I think that's the most important thing. And they don't care about one or two metrics. So just stick to revenue and conversion. So what matters to the business. Also, another thing we've been doing, which clients seem to like, is comparing what the traffic would cost if they use Google Ads. So we'll say, like, it would have cost you 20,000 if you spent on Google Ads, but this traffic's obviously free for you. So this is great. And they love that. And that can't be argued with. And also make sure you compare them to your competitors as well, because if they're beating the competitors, they absolutely love that. That's the main things we include.
Yeah, fair enough. And Andrew, what would you say?
Hi, and thanks, Sean. Thanks for inviting us on again. And for those who don't know, Sean needs an award because I am terrible at replying to everyone. So he managed to hustle me back on very quickly in my messages. So thanks, Sean. Yeah, reporting. Everyone hates reporting. Every SEO agency does it differently. Every marketing agency does it differently. I've seen it automated. I've seen it a symbol sheet. I've seen it done by tools. Seen it done by email. I've seen it done by report, and I've done it probably all of the ways and above. Generally speaking, reporting is really weird. It doesn't reflect actual what's happening. It just presents a snapshot during a particular period of time of a business, and you're presenting that snapshot, of which they probably know already because they feel it in their bank balance and their approach. I think a lot of reporting tends to be generally an uncomfortable experience for agencies, full stop, because if depending on how you do it, I see reports where the arrows are red and then there's green, and that horrifies people. Why is there so much red in the chart? They don't have context. I tend to prefer a call with somebody and to say, look, what's going on inside the business, what's happening to the rankings. I think most reporting is doesn't reflect really what's happening. We don't look into it. There can be increases of traffic for various reasons, downwards rankings for various reasons. There'll be all kinds of things going on. And reporting just is it's a painful experience usually for agencies, depending on how they've built their report and what it represents. So if you're representing all data, well, realistically, you're not responsible for all data. If you're representing the outcome of your work, that's a different story and a different report. And sometimes reporting can be just done as almost like hey, look, this is what's happening with your online metrics. It doesn't have to be what you've directly done, but a lot of clients like the value in that in terms of somebody actually saying, hey, this is what's going on. We're obviously not working on everything for you, but this is the position you're in. So I think I prefer client-centric metrics, which are different to the client and what they're looking at and what their needs are. But reporting, I think, remains to be a challenge for SEO agencies, full stop, and just full marketing, full stop, because it's difficult to isolate what you do and the outcome of that. So more recently, I tend to take the point as the marketing, or I should say, the reporting side is where I say, hey, Luke, this is what's happening. You're in a business, but also this is what we're doing and what we've done and what we've worked on. But this is all the data you need to know about, and here's some opinions around that. So more of a the expert analysis and reporting is the conversation and unpicking everything, whereas report just is metrics, and it's our job really to take those metrics and give it to the clients in meaningful information. If that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. And maybe at the end, because I'm not in agency side anymore, but when I was there, when clients are fixated on certain things like a keyword or something, how do you get out of that? And how do you change their opinion and their thought process? That would be really cool to see your opinions on that later. But Mordy, what do you think of this?
I kind of take like the almost exact opposite approach, which you might think is like totally stupid and ridiculous. Also, I don't do SEO reporting anymore. I do wider marketing reporting, particularly around your brand. People come to me, or I offer a certain type of service, and if I'm not putting my spin on it, then why are you hiring me? Exactly. So there's a certain way I go about doing what I do. There's a certain outlook I have on marketing overall, and I put that into my narratives. I'm trying to build context, and I'm trying to build narratives. I'm trying to change like a mindset, especially because it's your wider marketing strategy. So if I'm just reporting on data, I'm not doing my job. Because of that, because I have a certain outlook and approach to it, that has to be there inside of the reporting itself. So I'm not starting off with like immediate ROI, immediate blah, 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 blah. I'm building a narrative, I'm building context. Now, obviously, it all depends on like who that client is. Like, I just wrote about this for SEJ. Like, I always find there's like two types of CMOs. There's a CMO who's conceptually focused. So with them, I would start off with the ecosystem, like the state of the industry kind of thing. And then I find there are CMOs who are a little bit more action oriented, for lack of a better word. And for them, I start off with like the competitor analysis, like, because that's usually what tickles their fancy, is we don't want to be left behind from the competitor. But that doesn't mean that I'm not contextualizing it in the way that I see things, which is the reason why they hired me to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think no, there's some good points there, and we can open it up and get. I'm sure there'll be some opinions on all that. So Jess, what do you think on this side of it?
I'm somewhere in the middle of Kelly and Andrew's opinion and Mordy's opinion. Um, I I do believe that it's important to connect to the CMO level. If you're not speaking the language of the C-suite, then you're never going to get the resources and the buy-in that you need to do the advanced tactics that are going to have a real impact. That being said, you are going to have any CMO worth their salt is going to be looking at like Les Binet's approach. You've got the long and the short of it. When we're talking about the long of it, when it's coming to SEO, then I would always be reporting on share of search. This is a lovely combination of it takes into account your traffic or your conversions, your market share, but it looks at it in the context of your competitive landscape.
And so it has both of those things that you're looking at strategically. How are we performing, but how are we performing versus those we're competing against on a metric that really matters, which is market share. That's something that you will track revenue against. That's something that not only the CMO, but the CEO of the company is going to care about. And if you can prove traction on that metric, then it's very easy to have that buy-in and those resources that you need. That all being said, tracking share of search is not something you do on a weekly basis. You're talking maybe quarterly, but most companies are going to be doing or seeing movement on those metrics more on a 6-month to a yearly basis. So you need to add in then the short of it. And that will come back to whatever specific tactics that you're working on at that point in time. Those tactics should have a very smart outcome. You should be working on one aspect of your marketing mix and be able to track that back to a specific KPI for whatever tactic it is. And so you can report on then a week-on-week basis or a month-on-month basis, movement on that very specific tactical KPI, and then show that traction to share of search in the longer term. And I think that combination of the long and the short of it gets that short-term buy-in and the long-term buy-in and really allows you to build on your ongoing successes.
Can I add in? I think this depends if you're an implementer or if you're a consultant. I think it vastly changes. But if you're an agency, you're doing the actual work, what you're going to intend to report on, how you're going to intend to report on is probably going to be different if you're a consultant, right? Because if I'm a consultant, I am a consultant. I care more about the diagnosis, the narrative, the ecosystem, the problems, the solutions, than I do the actual quote unquote performance per se. Because I'm the one driving that strategy. So I need to contextualize the strategy. I need to contextualize the ecosystem, and then I need to tell them, here's what you should do. And I need to use the data to support that, which is different than say, I implemented the SEO and now I'm reporting on what happened.
That's true, but I'm also a consultant, but I'm very much the style that will get into the weeds. So that certainly shapes my perception of things. But I don't feel that it does our industry justice when we have a bunch of consultants, and I would not put Mordy in this camp. I know his work. But there
I
are
don't do
SEO
SEO anymore,
consultants.
so like whatever. Sure. Yeah,
Right. There are SEO consultants out there who will just write a 10-page list of technical action items or keywords that you should target or whatever it might be, plump it on the client's desk, say job done, and charge 10 grand. And that's not going to be of value to that company. And that's why SEO ends up getting this bad name of you can't action it because you haven't made it actionable. So I think if you are in a consultants or an agency or an in-house role, you need to do our industry justice and show the potential of the channel, not just have an endless list of recommendations that don't get implemented.
I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to close my mic off. I agree with that totally. What I'm saying is that, and I agree. I think what does justice to the SEO industry, and I see this when I judge like SEO awards, people will send in like, here's what we did, here's the tactic, and here's the result. I don't care. Everyone has a good tactic and everyone has good results. How did you get there? What was the strategy? What was the problem? How did you figure that out? How did you solve that? What's the solution? What's the deeper problem that you were thinking about? What's the deeper solution that you're offering? And then what's the recommendation based on that? And I find that layer of like general call it deeper thinking barely exists in the SEO industry sometimes. No offense to the other SEOs who don't do that, but a lot of SEOs do that. Okay, mic off.
Yeah, I know where you go. I mean, Kelly or Andrew, any thoughts on that?
Go to Callie first if you want to.
Yeah, with that, I think we always, our clients don't care about what we're doing. I think we're different for us as an agency. We actually implement everything for them. So they're not going to want a list of everything we've done. They just care about the results and like the time we have with them. They just want us to say, like, we made you so much money. They want to see that. They don't care about how we got there. So it's a bit different in our situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happened here in this conversation is a lot of context for it. It's lovely to hear Jess talking about share of search and Les Binet. I think both of them, as Mark Ritson coined it or stole it from somebody, is an excellent conversation. Share of search, really interesting model. you can see share of search using certain tools on a granular basis every month. And My Telescope is one of those tools that does that. The problem with share of search is there are really probably two share of searches. One, share of search, as Les Binet talks about it, is a brand based, how much share of search your brand has compared to other brands. And then you have the other share of search, which is the non-branded buyer intent traffic. Tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush, you have to split out topical traffic and informational traffic from buyer intent search. So it's really, that's challenging, although they are getting better at that, I have to say, and to give that data. And I think from an agency point of view, I think there's a lot there in terms of agencies can't make reporting their only thing. So, reporting itself, especially if you're on the average agency retainer, most agency retainers in the UK are below £2,000 a month, and that represents the vast majority of SEO out there is small retainers, and you can't produce a in-depth analysis like a consultant would. And I'd argue half of consulting probably is actually interpreting the landscape out there and providing people with that bespoke thing that you don't get from an agency, which is where consultants are amazingly useful. And consultants provide things that shouldn't be in the agency reports and insights. And I think from an agency perspective, the product you have is arguably what you do. And the reporting is like a little bit of that. And and from account management, even account management, the emails about what you're doing. I think Kelly raised a good point. Most agency work is doing stuff for clients. And I think consultants, a lot of consultation is strategy, letting them see things that they can't see from data, letting them see how the landscape lies and providing insights. So I think for any like SEO consultants, or sort of the SEO agencies watching this or SEO freelancers watching this, you're very much dictated to by the budget. And as much as everyone would love to do loads more, I think budget dictates a lot, and where that budget is applied. I think that's the key there, is how much money you've got left in the pot to do what you need to do based on what you've got to actually work to do. And so I do think definitely the split between consultants and agencies needs to be clear in terms of agencies do certain things and consultants have this far more, they should have far more knowledge, and I think sometimes that isn't the case, but I think consultants should go there and look at the far bigger picture, and SEO agencies focused on the function of what they're actually doing for clients.
Yeah, good points. I guess we could talk about this for a long time, but just the kind of, one thing that always is playing on my mind at the moment, how are you doing the shift, as I discussed earlier, it's from like, modern day sort of search and digital marketing generally, obviously a lot of artificial intelligence getting involved now around large language models and AIOs and that kind of thing. How are you shifting the sort of conversation there? Are people approaching you? I know I'm getting it internally in terms of like what's going on with all this like AI stuff. Are you having those discussions, or do you not want to scare your clients, or kind of what's the vibe around that, if anyone's got anything on that?
Well, for us, we're definitely telling them that click-through rate is going down. So that's the first question. So like, why is it negative? So we have to explain to them about that. So AI Overviews taking over the stats for that. That's the main thing that we're telling them about. And also if they're ranking it and appearing, we're letting them know. They're appearing for lots of them without even any doing extra work, just as long as like simple, direct questions. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Anything else, like Mordy, you like when you're talking to brands, is that kind of part of your, when you're briefing them, are you talking about these sort of trends and patterns that they should see?
Yeah, I don't know where to start because I look at this a lot differently than, let's say, a typical like SEO would. Like, I don't look at an LLM as about getting traffic, which I'm not saying it is or it isn't. It probably isn't because they're not built for that necessarily. It depends. Like ChatGPT versus, let's say, like Perplexity. It takes like 5 searches to get a URL showing up in ChatGPT. By the way, like the sentiment is different between the two. Like that I've actually tracked in SEMrush. So like, for example, if I'm BetMGM, which is one of the things I'm looking at, they're like a sports gambling app, right? Their sentiment in LLMs, like, and it's something I'm looking at when I'm auditing a brand, their sentiment in LLMs like Perplexity or SearchGPT is different than, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini, because they're different type of AI models. So, and not all LLMs are equal or the same. Perplexity or SearchGPT are relying more on the URLs that they're sourcing as part of the citation, and they're more heavily influenced by that pull. Whereas ChatGPT and Gemini are looking at a little wider lens, and they're not citing as often. So you see the sentiment, the SEO that you're doing is more impactful on the sentiment within the LLM in an LLM like Perplexity than it is to say it's like ChatGPT. Well, one of the things, I don't even start with the LLM. I kind of use the LLM as like a proxy for the web. And what I'll do is I'll first go through everything, right? What's happening in the ecosystem? What's happening with your brand? Let's like run an audit. And by the way, you have like data all over the place for this already. If you're an SEO person, I don't know why you wouldn't use it. I'll give you an example. I was just pulling one on Gatorade, and Gatorade's branded traffic went down in 2024, January 2024. So now the question is, okay, is that them? Is that a website issue? Is that an SEO issue? Is that like a them issue? Is that a market issue? So you can see like their search volume also goes down at the same time, but everybody's does. So, okay, there was a market issue there. And then you go through, okay, what's that market issue? It's a whole separate thing. And then when you go to the LLM, you can see it, right? So the problem in the market and the shift in the market, like in this particular case, there was two of them. One was there were more competitors in the space. And the second thing was people were getting wise to the fact that Gatorade is actually not good for you. It's crap. And you could see it. You could see it if you use also Ask, which is a great tool for this kind of stuff, you could see it in the questions like people are asking and people also ask for. And then you see it show up in the LLM. And I've never seen it not happen like that, where there's a gap in the brand or a gap in the market or a gap in the ecosystem, and it's not reflected in the LLM sentiment. So it'll basically tell you, like, if you ask, like AI mode, if you have AI mode yet, which is better, vitamin water or Gatorade, it'll say vitamin water is better. ChatGPT will say the same thing, because vitamin water, the low sugar version is healthier, and Gatorade is just for when you're like, working out or something like that. So you have basically the LLM telling you don't drink Gatorade, but the brands don't realize it. If you go to the Gatorade homepage, they're selling you water bottles. And if you like do a control F for the word health, it doesn't exist on the page. That's how I'm using LLMs. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, but it's smart. It's a great answer. Has anyone else got anything to add, or we can move on to the next topic?
I think, yeah, look, I mean, I think SEO, the industry is really all over the place, and I think it's a mess. And there's a mess because of the productization of SEO, and the SEO products that agency sells differ. A lot of agencies have sold content, and that's the only thing they sold is content. And a lot of SEO agencies outsource all link building, which is basically just guest posts and niche edits and things like that. And there's an ecosphere of SEO product. And then when traffic is the SEO product that most people have sold, which is I'm talking all the thousands upon thousands of agencies out there, not brands and big brands. But as that product is now like being cut apart, you have the AI come in, and a lot of brands say, well, we'll do our own content with AI. A lot of SEOs all of a sudden pivot to selling. You can press one button and have 100 articles via the sitemap you stole from your competitors and all that kind of stuff. And so the LLM is presented this other channel, and there's people selling generative engine optimization, geo and AIO, and I lose track of how many different variations people are selling. When clients, I think everybody on this podcast today is almost all exclusively saying, clients need revenue and the growth and the things that matter to them, and they feel their bank balance. And I think AI overviews and all that kind of stuff is such a moving target. I think for me, my job is very simple. I rank people higher on Google, and that's what I do. I tell clients, Luke, you need to keep an eye, you keep an eye on this AI overviews business and LLM search. But the best way to do that is by building brands. And brand marketing will always be the way to build your digital ecosphere. And, it's the problem you have is that SEO is largely about product placement on digital shelves. People walking down the aisles, it's about what they call physical or digital availability. or how the Ehrenberg Bass Institute talks about it. What we've tried to do is turn SEO into a top of funnel awareness channel. And when you actually break that down in terms of what is a better method of marketing, a lot of content just doesn't get recalled by people because they read it, they bounce, they read 5 other articles, they forget you exist. A lot of B2B purchases take 12 months. There's a lot that goes into marketing, not just SEO. And I think so at this moment in time, I would tell anyone, look, just chill out a little bit about this stuff, build your brand, focus on building your brand. There were ways, you can go into an event and sponsor an event and that give a massive digital footprint, which is far better than any articles you can create. And that would be a legit SEO tactic to go and create an event in itself to help build your ecosphere. So I think we just need to chill a bit, but I understand agencies are in the client acquisition game. And if you've been telling every client, if your entire agency is built around a team of content writers, you have to constantly give 10 blog posts a month from a client and so forth. If that's your model, I get why you're running around scared as an agency. But I think realistically, we don't know where this is going. I think marketers are on the early adoption of the bell curve, so to speak, about AI overviews and ChatGPT and things like that. We're using AI more because we're marketers. So that makes sense. We probably think it's bigger than it's certainly the data suggests it's not that big for everyone else. It will potentially be. So I think it is going to get bigger and bigger. I think maybe it's going to be a huge disruptor, but ultimately we don't even know what that looks like. So I think, agencies should be focused on selling stuff for clients, and brand marketers should be focused on building brand. And there's a lot of SEO plays that just exist on the PR marketing, brand marketing front.
I agree with that, but you have to make sure that as an industry, we're selling the right things. If we still have a whole bunch of agencies out there saying, yeah, we're going to sell you commodity content trash, we're going to do link building for you, that's really setting SEO as an industry back. We're getting to a point where that label of SEO won't allow you to get into the boardrooms. And while I do not agree with calling it LLMO or AIO or any of these other idiotic acronyms that are coming out, some of the reason that these acronyms are coming out is because if you have the title of an SEO agency or a head of SEO, if you're in-house, you're often on the back foot straight away with your development teams or with your CMO because that label has been so badly trodden over it, particularly in the last 10 years. I see this evolution of AI as a reckoning for our industry that is going to separate the people who are doing the right things with that understanding that it is about how you track back to building a brand, the physical and mental availability, or physical in the digital space, as odd as that definition is. That's the type of stuff that matters. It was never building links. It was never about ranking for a particular keyword in number one. It was always about where you have your brand positioning, how you're dominating a topical space. Whether that topical space is being dominated in the mind of a human or in the mind of an AI, it doesn't really matter. It's about that you have that mental availability, and links was never the way to do it. Digital PR, yes. Links, no.
I think there's a problem with that, Jess, in terms of mental availability. So mental availability is the likelihood of being thought of in a buying situation. That's the definition of it. And if you look at SEO, the topical model, and you look at things like the forgetting curve, most people forget the content. If they're in an informational search, they'll extract the information. They'll extract the information from multiple sources. And unless they use that information straight away, unlikely that they'll recognize the brand. Digital PRs, yeah, obviously I work for digital PR agencies, so we see a lot what goes on in terms of how revenue generates that end. I think the danger is that when you start looking at effectiveness versus efficiency, that SEO for generating mental availability doesn't have the efficiency, or should say, shouldn't have the effectiveness that it does compared to other channels. So I think when you split out this mental availability side of things and you look at things, what's more effective, writing 50 blog posts or sticking a great ad and putting it on YouTube and Facebook and so forth and everywhere. So I think SEO needs to definitely, I think these are concepts: mental availability, physical, straight digital availability, all concept that matters. But also, I don't think SEO should play that greater part in the mental availability. I think there's some good avenues for some brands in the blogs and blogs. There is. I think it's probably massively overplayed by a lot of agencies. I think the link thing, I think is, links do increase rankings. They do. I mean, I can see that. Even spammy links will have a short-term benefit of those things. So I think SEO has a big, I agree with you, by the way. I totally agree about the concepts about the SEO industry going backward. I think the vast majority of the industry is still there. When you go to the conferences and you see sponsors and you walk around the event hall, and mostly it's modernized link sellers that are the platforms out there that are spending the money on the conferences and the advertising. And agencies are outsourcing massive amounts of everything. So I think we are in a spammy industry. I do agree that SEO agencies need to be thought leadership. I think SEO is a terrible title for what we need to do. But I also think we have to be very careful about what our end result is. And also, I think definitely from an agency perspective, I think mental availability is a challenging one for SEOs to actually jump in on and promote, because we've got this whole topical authority thing that everyone keeps promoting it, and you can rank websites about blog posts. Everyone knows that, but it's like, I think the SEO is currently all over the place, and its definition is really fatigued. But I agree with that. We've got massive problems in the industry, and I think it's where we go from here. But SEO means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and those things are often different.
I would just say, when it comes to mental availability, if we believe that SEO can't effectively promote mental availability, it means that for a well-structured site, SEO is probably going to be generating anywhere between 30 to 50% of your traffic. That would be a healthy ratio. You don't want a significant dependency on CPC. And we know that social platforms are great for branding, but they're not the ones that are going to be passing the traffic. It is still SEO that is a solid traffic driver, revenue driver, KPI driver. That's why people invest so much into it as a channel. If we're saying from the digital sphere, organic is not a driver of mental availability, we have a big problem as an industry.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying, because mental availability, a lot of mental availability comes from physical availability. So when you walk down a supermarket aisle, you see a brand, it's because somebody's paid the swatting fee to the supermarket and placed it on the shelf. So yeah, absolutely, the physical availability in SEO drives a lot of mental availability. I think the problem is when we go down the route of trying to create mental availability through topical content. That's where it sort of dies. That's informational content. So when someone's, a lot of strategies at the moment to sell this topical authority, well, the physical availability or digital availability at the bottom of the funnel is creating a lot of that. So, or should they, the 4 P's of marketing: place creates a lot of, product placement creates a lot of mental availability. So I think it's a subject that you have to say, how are we creating the mental availability through SEO? Definitely that happens through organic search and rankings towards buyers. But I think what's been happening is people have been using topical content as to creating mental availability. And when you start playing in elements such as mental recall and things like that, it gets very confusing that end. But I think we have to be careful what we sell as a product. But yeah, I agree. But it does create mental availability, but it's the physical availability at the bottom of the funnel that tends to create that mental availability.
I'm curious what Kelly has to say.
But I agree with Andrew, definitely. Yeah, I think I haven't really got anything else to add on that one.
Yeah, sweet. And no, I'll
Sorry
just
to put
say,
you on
I
the
think
spot.
it's all good. That's a good shout. And I think, I think AI being a rude awakening for SEO world is 100%, I think. And I think it is a good thing, actually, what I'm seeing. I think it's going to be beneficial for users online. It's just obviously there's some bumps in the road, as it usually is. And also brand, when I've been doing my analysis and seen other analysis on, how large language models are putting things together, and AIOs, brand is obviously going to be one of those huge factors in that. So let's move on. I'm going to move away from AIOs and LLMs a little bit, and go on to another topic. So yeah, in terms of sure, most people have this problem, but how can SEO teams collaborate more effectively with paid teams, social media, PR teams to maximize performance without creating, additional extra workload on top of everything else they do? So, yeah, I mean, Kelly, what do you think?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing, they need to talk more. Everyone needs to talk. Teams need to talk with each other. Like being in a silo, it doesn't help anyone. So like if the PR team is planning something, the SEO should be involved. They can help them out with landing pages, keywords, or the structure of the page. Paid team is a big one. Like they need to share the converting keywords. That helps with organic targeting. So you need to make sure the paid team talk with the SEO team. Social team is great to help with SEO as well. They've got if they find real questions that are happening on social media or trending content, they should let the SEO team know that definitely. It's not really loads of extra work. It's just about talking more, sharing what's working, and also what's not working. Like people need to know what's not working, so the team don't waste the time doing more work on what's not working. So that's the main things. And then having regular catch-ups really. So everyone in the industry, in the agency, is speaking to each other. They know what's going on. Yeah, that's my main things really.
Do you have anything in-house that you see that you do special to make sure that's all happening? Or is it say just have regular meetings and
Regular meetings, project management tools. So be transparent on the tools, keep that, everything goes on there, copy the team in that, copy the client in that as well. So everyone knows what's going on. If there's something that's not working, we need to let the client know as well, just being transparent and honest.
I mean, I'll open this up, but do you find that sometimes teams are quite careful about what they release because they feel like they're judged on their own performance, and opening that up they could be judged on that, or things could be taken away from them, or people stepping on their toes and that. So yeah, I'll keep it at that, and I'll move on to Andrew and get open it up.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think Kelly hit the nail on the head. You're right. Okay, so you can only collaborate more by you talking more. But the problem comes is that becomes an expense to the client. If you've ever been in a multi-department meeting with different tiers, they're expensive meetings based on an hourly retainer of the expertise. You put 4 heads of department in at seriously high wages inside a meeting room, that's an expense. And expense has to come from somewhere. And most budgets from an operational level, if you split a budget into an hourly rate, which is everything has to be done internally on an hourly rate, you can eat through a retainer at lightning speed. And this is something I think clients kind of don't really sort of see. And they just say, oh yeah, I want the service. But you have professionals, everyone's got a wage. It certainly costs, those meetings cost. I think departments are very, when you start from an ops point of view, I wouldn't even, in a CFO point of view, measuring the finances and cost per client and stuff can be so difficult. And I think I've seen it with agencies where they do have time in the bank, so that cross collaboration, and that gets put in there and put in the budget. And but I think generally speaking, and across the board, marketing spend is down anyway. I think clients do want miracles from the marketing budgets. And paid search is an example. So paid search, I always go back to paid search, not paid social, but paid search. Paid search is generally agencies will either charge a percentage fee based on the revenue spend and on paid search, 20%, 10%, or they have a fixed fee on the smaller level. But after a certain amount of time, once they've identified the best converting keywords and stuff, that account kind of runs on autopilot. So the agency is making 20% for doing very little. And it's if you can take that budget and transfer it into the other departments and so forth. So it's really challenging. I think cross collaboration is challenging for agencies to do it profitably, because clients want to pay less, not more. And even though more collaboration would generally get them better results, full stop. And if you've ever been on a multi-agency thing where you've got you're one agency as part of 5 agencies doing work, it gets even more confusing around collaboration. So I think it's a really good subject. I think it's really challenging. And I also say it's like straight back at the other departments. What are they doing to collaborate more with the SEO teams and so forth? Collaboration is a massive problem. A solution is to charge agencies to charge more, but then we've been in the position where if you want to charge more, then you're not as competitive as others. So I think collaboration is a challenge for the agency model. And if you're a single silo agency, like you're just doing SEO or you're just doing paid search or paid social, that problem, there is no collaboration. It doesn't happen. So I think it's a really challenging subject.
Yeah, and I think also like it comes from the top, doesn't it? Because if everyone knows that they're working towards the same goal, then it doesn't matter where that's coming from, as long as we're all kind of contributing. But if it's all performance based and it's based on budgets going here and there, it becomes competitive, and that could become a problem, perhaps. Mordy, what do you think?
I have a lot to say on this. I'm gonna try to be like super succinct if I can. I agree with Kellyanne a lot. Like there's a lot of I literally call my consulting Unify, because the brand and the performance side of teams, of companies don't sync up. And it's really bad. I'll give you like how bad it is. If you go to a company's like homepage and then you go to their YouTube and you see the YouTube creators that they're creating and you see the copy on the homepage, it's almost like completely unaligned. That's how bad it is. It's really, really bad. And I'm telling you, like, I don't know, spill the tea. Like, I've worked at big brands before, and like, it's a huge problem. They don't talk. It's so bad. I'll tell you, like at Wix, when someone creates the team that's running the content for like the blog and the team that's running the content for the LP are not the same. They don't even talk to each other, right? So you can have 2 different brand messages coming out of the blog, or different latent positionings coming out, one from the blog, one from the LPs, around the same topic. That's how bad it is. And the problem is, and this kind of goes to what Andrew was saying, the problem is a hot take, and I'm biased towards this point of view to begin with, so I'm just going to say that, is that everything should sit under comms. And I'll give you a really good example of why that is. There was a potential client I was working with. They ran a Super Bowl ad. But this is because, by the way, like the overall concept, because I get lost in the example, is that your brand should make your performance less expensive. And the fact that you're not synced up and the fact that you're siloed is making it, you're wasting millions of dollars. So they ran a Super Bowl ad. It was really good. The social copy, the homepage copy didn't align. Like, what did y'all do? Like, I never heard y'all before. So when people Googled you and they liked that message that resonated in your Super Bowl ad, what happened when that messaging wasn't at all on their homepage? I would bounce. I don't know what the hell this is. So the answer back was, and if they're watching this, like, sorry, like, this is such a good example. They said, no, not a problem. We created an LP, which was totally unaligned from the user to begin with. And let's say it was aligned for a second. And we ran Google ads for their branded keyword. I'm like, you paid for a Super Bowl ad. You paid for the production. Then you paid your content team to create an LP, and then you paid Google, all because y'all couldn't sync up and change the H1 on the homepage. I'm done.
You gotta have that unified message. I'm 100% with Morty. Like, if your teams aren't aligned on this is the brand and this is what it says, and they're all saying it with the right flavor for their channel, you're gonna have a different way of saying it on CPC than you will on TikTok, than you will in your SEO copy. But the core message needs to be the same. And I think that comes back to, from the executive team, there needs to be, this is our clear brand positioning. This is our brand book, which should not be 40 pages. If your brand book is more than 5 pages, that is not a brand book. That is a piece of bullshit. It needs to be short, sharp, concise, clear. You can read it in 2 minutes and go, I know this brand, I get it, because your audience is not going to spend half an hour trying to understand, oh, why is there this little character on your logo? What does it mean for your corporate social responsibility? They just need to know, what's your name? What do you do? Why should I buy from you over your competitors? And if you can't say that in 5 pages, then you can forget about being in marketing to start with. But once you have that, this is our brand, we can express it clearly, we can adapt that core message to other channels. It's about making sure that you have unified KPIs across those channels, and that unified KPIs is reported in an automated dashboard that everybody looks at the same dashboard and then discusses how they contributed to that dashboard. And to get around the challenge that Andrew was speaking about, meetings cost a lot of money, especially when people go to meetings and then they don't pay attention until it's their turn to talk, and then they talk and then they stop paying attention again. What I like to do with my clients is many people respond better to written text than they do to being in a meeting environment. So you can have your weekly meeting as a Slack chat where everybody has to say in 2 sentences, this is what I did, this is my win, this is how it contributed to the KPIs, this is who I need next week, or this is who I need to collaborate with now on the next project. And having that ability to then read it through at your leisure and say, oh, I'm tagged here, I need to go and talk to them. I find that's often a better way of communication than everybody in an hour meeting not listening.
I just want to say, like, there's like another problem, like another layer to this, and I'll kind of like paraphrase something I was talking to Kevin Indig about, and I've seen this like firsthand happen, is that when there's a wider problem like we're talking about here, because no one's synced up, and this is on the CMO or the VP of marketing, whoever it is, if you're listening to this, it's your fault. When there's a problem, they'll usually go to the immediate channel. So they'll go like, oh, we have less, I don't know, social shares or social likes or whatever it is. Social team, what's going on? And you know that meeting where you walk out and they're like telling you what's going on? You need to change. You're like, there's nothing I could have done differently. You're a total moron. It's generally because there's a wider strategic or brand or an organization, whatever, a much wider problem. But instead of looking within and finding that problem, you just look to the immediate channel, try to fix that instead. And then it decays over time, and then you're really screwed.
Yeah, I agree with Mordy and Jess completely on this. I think, yeah, I mean, communications is all over the place. I think it's going to get even worse, by the way, because as vector embeddings become a bigger part of search engine models and SEO, and copy becomes definitely a bigger part of the SEO game on the on page, especially the AI overviews and LMs and all that kind of thing. I think the conversations about your copy and the brand, there's a lot of clashes that are going to occur between SEO and product. I think what you need is a comms manager and a communications role. I think marketing communication, I hate the terms content marketing in terms, I hate the terms SEO. I actually think all of it is marketing communications. And maybe that's where we need to head, to have a head of marketing communications who gets all the channels. And that role, you know, you've got a head of marketing or a CMO or whatever job title they have, and maybe the next big job title in a world of, you know, what are we talking of as communications? Maybe the next big growth job title should be the head of comms. And head of comms traditionally has always been in government-led organizations where head of communications tends to sit. You know, and you've got PR mixed in with that. Maybe in a digitized world, I think the next big role as head of comms, somebody gets content marketing, PR, SEO, paid search, paid social, somebody who gets them all and can keep an eye on everything, can keep everyone aligned, and then also report to the CMO, whose job is to make sure everything is driving benefits for businesses and growth. So maybe that's the role we all need to have, and we go from being SEO agencies to comms agencies. You know, that might be the future. I don't know. I have a big say when I say it. I think every SEO agency will become a PR agency in the future, but maybe PR is too channel defined too. Maybe we need to call it communications, and we need to go backwards and create marketing communication agencies. Maybe that's the future. I don't know what the acronym of that is.
Yeah, we've had a lot of those recently. Yeah, I mean, I just put down 2 words, like in terms of accountability. So the joint accountability and taking accountability. I think it's people try and avoid doing that a lot of times, and also transparency. You know, so if you have that from top to bottom in terms of like people are allowed to be transparent, and that kind of, I think that helps obviously. And I think sometimes that isn't the case, and that's why things go missing or unsaid. So let's wrap up in terms of like the last one, and something that's topical, obviously at the moment in the news. And obviously, I'm talking about shopping and e-commerce, and with ChatGPT now having that built in, and we see the changes on the SERP. Just to get everyone's point of view on it, kind of what do you see the future of e-commerce looking like, especially in the next 2 to 3 years? If you've got any experiences and that kind of thing, that'd be awesome. Kelly, what do you see?
Well, I think it's definitely going to be less about first on Google and more about being where people are. So you've got to be on Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, anywhere where people are talking about your products. I think it's going to be a lot more about chatbots as well. So I think people are going to put them on the websites. It's not just for customer service. So you'll go on the website and say, I'm looking for a gift for my friend that likes cooking, for example. And then that takes you directly then to the page that's about cooking. So you're like having a conversation with a chatbot. I think that would be the future. And also, obviously, especially with ChatGPT and the added shopping features. So, yeah, it's all going to be changing a lot, I think.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, it's just bonkers out there. I don't know if anyone feels the same thing, but like when I go to do an e-commerce search on Google, it just fills me with, decision fatigue and almost like I can't, a choice paralysis, I would describe it. That thing is just a mess. I had to buy a TV for my son over Christmas, and I went online, and it was the Google shopping for TVs on Boxing Day. It was like, it was mostly affiliate paid search. So the affiliates were clearly knew their margins really well, and were just throwing up paid search listings, and all the big brands were there that I would expect in the UK and so on. And it just made me feel like, ooh, I don't like any of this. It's too much. And I think ChatGPT seems to slim that down, and deep research does the same. And I wanted it. I had to have a TV as well. I had to buy one for my daughter just before Christmas. And it had to be a certain, because she had a new bed, and it was one of them TVs that the beds go up, and it had to be a certain dimensions. And I was after really finite TV dimensions to fit inside this bed. And I only found one TV, and that took me ages. So, but I would imagine in an LM search, and I didn't use it, I don't know why. Maybe it just wasn't responding as well as it should do. But I would have LM in future, you'd be able to find that quite instantly. So, yeah, I think e-commerce is a bit of a mess at the moment, full stop. I wouldn't imagine, I don't know if anyone else has any data, but I would imagine since Google's been operating these tile dashboards and things and the SERPs, I should imagine click-through rate is down because, and most people go to, it's probably a lot has gone to Amazon and a lot have gone to the brands. I don't know if anyone's got any knowledge on that.
I have no
Go on,
knowledge
Mordy.
of that, but I have an opinion on this. Just to help.
Go for it.
I think what you're seeing in e-com is, first, I don't think like it's an e-com problem. I don't think it's an SEO problem. I think it's a digital problem. And the point of what you were saying before, like, it's just like there's like so much noise. I go to and it's just like there's so much of it that it all kind of loses resonance. And I think what you're talking about, the e-com space, is almost like a microcosm of what's happening across the wider web. And I think what happens is that there are brands that sort of like, I was talking with, I did like a thing with Elita Scholz a long time ago, beginning of the year, about this. And she mentioned, one of her clients is in the PLAs. I don't know if they still call them PLAs or not, the product listing carousels. Not the ad, it was the organic carousel, sorry. So it wasn't a PLA. And she was saying, well, we should optimize to get, he's like, why? It's so easy to click through that I'm next to a big brand or recognized brand. Why would you click on me? Like, why are we even spending time working, like putzing around on this and spending money? Let's spend our money somewhere else. And I think that's sort of the issue. And it's sort of like that's sort of representative of the web overall. There's so much. Why would I go to you if I don't recognize you? If you don't resonate with me in some sort of way? I'll give you like a really quick example of where I see this. Like, I crap on them all the time. Wingstop, which they're like a wing chain in the US and the UK. So for some reason, even though like they have more traffic and they're more popular, blah, 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 like LLMs, it's like, it's like 50-50, but Buffalo Wild Wings, their main competitor, will still kind of like show up as the better option. Like if you were to go to ChatGPT and ask what's more famous, Buffalo Wild Wings or Wingstop, it would say Buffalo Wild Wings. And it's because Wingstop has no like actual brand. Their slogan is where flavor gets its wings. Thank you. That was very good. That really speaks to me. Any chicken place could write that, right? And what's going to happen is that there's going to be a reckoning where the whole web is constricting, and that I do have data on, but I can't share that now because I promised XMX I would share it there. But the web is not growing. I'll say it like that. Like, the web is not growing. And Kevin indicated a post, which I agree with, like 2024 is going to be the peak year. I think 2021 was the peak year. And it's all going to refine, and it's all going to constrict. And that's going to have huge implications on e-com, where people are just like, yeah, let's get our site, let's get our product, let's be very transactional. That whole thing's not going to work the same way anymore.
Yeah, I mean, just my own example. I can't remember what I was looking for, but I was on mobile and I typed in, it was just like paid, and I finally got to some organic, and then I didn't even recognize them, to be honest. So then I just went to Amazon. So that's usually how my journey goes. I end up on Amazon, and then the products aren't even that great most of the time, but you just think, oh, it's easy, and I know what, I can look for it. But yeah, that was a interesting example. Jess, what do you think?
I think that point of making it easy, getting around this decision fatigue, as was said before, like a lot of brands overestimate how much a human cares about purchasing their product. They care a lot about that purchase. The actual buyer, very little, especially if it's the vast majority of our purchases, which, I don't really care what brand of yogurt my yogurt is. I'm just going to keep buying the one that I'm familiar with purely because I'm familiar with it. And these purchase behaviors is something that the web is very easy to learn what you like. Your AI personal assistant will learn what you like. And I think a lot of that regular purchasing or low value, I don't want to think about it, I don't really care about it purchasing, we'll simply outsource to those AIs. And now we'll tell our agent, hey, I need a new t-shirt for a boy, not a girl. Girls care about their t-shirts. I need a new t-shirt. Go and get me a new black t-shirt. And that will be it. It might come back and show you two options and say, which one would you like? And so this universe of previously you went on Google and you had the paid carousel and the organic carousel and all of this noise. And it's still pretty noisy on Amazon, to be honest. All of that noise disappears and you have, here's option A, here's option B, and they're the right size and they're the right color and they're from the brands that you've previously purchased or you've expressed an interest in, or if there's no personal data that's in your chatbot to fall back on, that's popular in the market, that it knows other people who share your profile have purchased. I mean, that's the optimal future from a human perspective. Obviously not the optimal feature for an SEO perspective, unless you are building your brands and thinking about how you can influence RAG well and influence these models well. So you are one of those chosen two. And if you are, well, then you are very much looking forward to the next 5 years.
I was going to say I 100% agree, and I'm just currently doing some research for an article that I'm writing, and I have the information foraging theory textbook, which is a very dry read, by the way, out there, and it's just by the side of me, and I think it resonates with. There's a quote here. It says, "A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention," and I think what's happening is that in a little bit like. I don't know if you're an Avengers fan, a Marvel fan, and you've seen Loki, and at the end of Loki, they have all these different strings out there, and you have to tie them up and become essential points. I think what you're finding is there's too much information out there. I think Mordy's right. The web isn't getting bigger. It's too big. So how do you solve that problem? And Jess hit the nail on the head. I think you make it smaller, and you have a device that makes it smaller. I don't know if you guys follow Rory Sutherland or not, but Rory Sutherland is a fantastic marketer. And he put a post out a few weeks ago, or maybe even a few months ago, where he said that the interface changes the context dramatically, and where we search from and how we search is going to change everything. And his view is that agentic AI, AI agents, is going to be the big thing going. And I think there's too much choice, there's too much information. Make it smaller. And the platform that makes search smaller and easier for us is probably going to win. I think Jess is bang on. There's going to be some big winners out of this over the next 5 years. And there's going to be a lot of people out of business. And that goes across. But sorry, Mordy, over to you, mate.
All good. I was gonna say, like, I don't want to like we're late, but people are different when people are funny when they have to open their wallets. Just keep that in mind. People are just a little bit funny about how they spend money. Different conversation for a different time.
Yeah, great conversation. And you've, I've not watched the end of Loki, but I weren't really playing to, but you've, it's over the end. No, I'm joking. No, it's great conversation. And yeah, I'll let you all go because I know you're very busy people and I really appreciate your time. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching this episode and join me next time. Cheers all.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.